This is the Two Bald Guys Sports Podcast. Bald heads, bold takes. Now, here are your hosts, Adam and Tony.
Welcome back. I'm Adam.
I'm Tony.
This is the Two Bald Guys Sports Podcast. We are back. Tony, this is our first podcast since an actual game. I know it was just a Hall of Fame game, but it actually was an entertaining one. I'm not going to lie. I know I said I would watch some of it. I didn't. I had other things going on. But there was points being scored. There was a last-second touchdown, and Carson Beck looked halfway decent. But, again, it was against just backups. So, but it was football. We got football.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had football. I actually went out. Of course, I was still out of town. I went out and got some wings, and they had the game on, so I at least got to see some football, which was entertaining. And Carson Beck wasn't bad. I know they're playing the Panthers. I know it's preseason Hall of Fame game. It doesn't count that much, but he was I'm looking at his stats here: 15 for 19, 188 yards with a touchdown, no interceptions. So yep. What are you going to do? That's pretty good. And then the Panthers guy, Kenny Pickett, was okay for 1162 yards, but that Haynes King out of Georgia Tech, I believe.
Yep, out of Georgia Tech.
He threw the ball pretty well. He threw the ball 34 times, for crying out loud, threw 2 touchdowns. So points were scored. It was football, and we got to see some rookies play a little bit. They weren't bad.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Haynes King, he did suffer a bit of an injury. I think he pulled a hamstring.
Yeah.
So he's out for a little bit, but then again, I don't think they were expecting Haynes King to be much of anything, but he definitely did a good job to maybe, deserve a backup role there. I think Carson Beck is probably in a pretty good shape, pretty good spot to get the backup role in Arizona behind Jacoby Brissett, because that team, like we said, we talked about it last week, between the schedule and just the talent on their team, they're not the best.
They're not.
But hey, it's football, and we got a full slate of weeks, preseason games coming up this week, and then we're only. Let's see, today is August 10th. We're taping this. I think we got like 3 weeks. 3 weeks until college football starts, till week 0. Week 0 starts, I think, let me look at here real quick. I'll get to it. Do you have it pulled up?
I have it pulled up. The first game is the 29th, 19 days, less than 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah, 19 days.
19 days. Don't count today. Or if you count today, depends.
Yeah, well, 19 days from today.
Yeah.
You go. Well, yeah.
North Carolina TCU. That's not a bad one.
It's not a bad matchup. North Carolina TCU. We got the Fighting Bill Belichick's taking on the Horned Frogs at noon, and then we got two games at in the kind of the 3:00 hour, San Jose State USC. But then we have a conference game with NC State and Virginia. Well, at least they're both ACC. I know sometimes these teams. It's happened with NC State. I can't remember a couple of years ago. They played a conference game, but it was a non-conference game, because they already had in the schedule or something, and a team moved over or something like that. So I'm not going to lie and say that I know for a fact, but it looks like it's a conference game. That's kind of rough. Like the first week of the year, I know we talked about this. Some teams do it. Getting the first game of the year being a conference game, at least this one is in Virginia. I know one of the teams last year played like in Ireland, and it was a conference game. That's kind of tough. But
K-State or something, wasn't
it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kansas State, went out and they got beat by, it might have been,
I don't remember who it was. Was it Iowa State?
It might have been Iowa State. It was Kansas State, Iowa State. Yep, out in Ireland. Good job with the memory on that. Iowa State beat them, and then Kansas State went into a tailspin. Hawaii and Stanford, that game's probably going to have 700 points in it. And then New Mexico State and Florida State also play that night, and Memphis and UNLV. UNLV is the team that I picked in as a mid-major team to watch. So, listen, you got a good, I wouldn't say a good slate of games, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games on that first night, first day. It's 19 days. It's less than 3 weeks away. Let's go. Let's get after it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm excited because it acts like it kind of went slow there at the beginning of the summertime.
Right.
Now all of a sudden, like this last month or so has really kind of picked up, and now that we had NFL coming on and we got NFL this Thursday, like now you just start getting that momentum, and then this will be here before you know it. And North Carolina TCU, people are saying that North Carolina is going to be a much improved from last year, which I don't know if that's saying a ton,
No,
but
it's not.
they are going to be much improved from what people say. So I'm excited to watch that North Carolina TCU game because that'll tell us a little bit about TCU, who lost their quarterback to Indiana, and then let's see what Bill Belichick's doing there in North Carolina.
And that game is in Ireland, is in Dublin, Ireland, which, I mean, I'm all for playing those games,
Yeah,
overseas a little bit, but
college,
at least
though.
it's not a conference game. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's the second time TCU's gone over there. I think. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say, again, I don't know for sure, but they have TCU as an early 7.5 point favorite. I would not be surprised if a ton of points were scored in that game also, because TCU tends to score and not play defense, and North Carolina, it was they didn't score as much, but they didn't play much defense last year either. So, we'll see. The second year, Bill Belichick, because a lot of people thought he would be gone after that first year because it was disastrous. I think, it rivaled up there. It wasn't quite as bad as when Urban Meyer tried to coach the Jaguars, but it was pretty darn close. But we got football 19 days away from now, and what comes with that is polls. The AP poll isn't out yet, but the coaches poll is. And we talked about this. We thought more with the AP poll because, that's the one that people seem to take more serious. Out of the 25 teams, I think you and I picked it to be about 16, 15, 18 teams from the Big Ten and the SEC. Well, I think it is 18 teams. I think it was, or maybe it's 17. I can't remember. I was pretty sure it was like 9 and 8. So I guess that would be 17. 9 from the SEC, and I think there's 8 in the Big Ten. So that they dominate. There is no mid-majors in the top 25 to start the year in the conference or the poll. And the only non-Big Ten and SEC teams to crack the top 10 is Notre Dame and Miami, but that's not much of a surprise there. We figured both of those teams would be in the top 10. The one team that was a little bit of surprise was your Oklahoma Sooners hopped in at number 9.
Yeah, I think obviously I'm not gonna argue with that a whole lot. I like that because the higher you start, you have a little room for error. But you and I thought that Oklahoma and Michigan would be put pretty close together around that 12 to 15 mark, and Oklahoma at 9 right now. I like it, but I don't like it. You know what I mean? Because now they're going to be favored, or they're going to be, the highest ranked team going into almost every single game that they play, up until maybe Texas and Georgia. But yeah, I'm surprised that they're that high. I'm surprised Michigan, I think, maybe about right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really surprised there's not one mid-major team, not a Tulane in there or somebody like that made the playoffs last year, which Tulane just happened to be my pick this year as well. But I can't imagine nobody saying one of those teams isn't going to be challenging for a playoffs. That just baffles me.
Yeah, it does to me. So, I mean, here's where I'm at, and I didn't look it up. I meant to look it up, but life gets in the way sometimes. Mm-hmm. Last time, okay, I'll just go. Indiana's ranked 6th in the coaches poll, right? Defending national championship. They actually had the second most first place votes, and somehow they finished 6th. So that means there's a lot of coaches that ranked them lower, like 10th or way lower. Do you think an SEC school could win the national championship and not be ranked at least in the top 2 the next year? Right? I know Indiana lost Fernando Mendoza. I get that. And I know we're in can Signetti do it again? But he did it 2 years in a row. So but the thing is, I just can't imagine. And I mean, I could see if Georgia, Texas, Alabama, let's just go with that for the most part, won a national championship. The next year they'd be number 1 or number 2. I without a doubt, right?
Texas didn't even make the playoffs last year. They're 4th in the coaches poll.
Right.
I don't, and obviously I hate Texas, so I'm a little biased there. Notre Dame didn't make the playoff. They actually are ahead of Miami, the team that I think is just as good, maybe got better. They did lose a defensive lineman. They kicked him off the team, a 5-star, really good guy who's supposed to replace Ruben Bain, so that's going to hurt a little bit. But I think they got better at their quarterback position. Their running backs are back. Their offensive line is going to be fine. They have wide receivers left and right. But they're ranked lower than Notre Dame. I know Notre Dame's returned a lot of guys too, but Miami beat them last year. So, and for those of you saying the coaches poll, it's not the AP poll, we get that, but they rival each other pretty close most of the time. It'll be interesting to see where the AP poll has Indiana, though.
It really is kind of crazy we've gone through it, how close they mirror each other, which I can be okay, I can see the top 5, stuff like that being mirrored, but it is ridiculous how close they are when they do this. And I just, and the thing is, I'm not gonna lie. Like I can't argue that Texas is a fourth best team because I think Texas is going to be pretty darn good. Now, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but it's the way they played at the end of the year, the way Arch played at the end of the year. Like
Yeah,
I
they're
think
better.
have them. Like if right now, if you said you have it to take a quarterback to lead your team in college football this year, Arch Manning would be one of the top picks. And I hate Notre Dame, but CJ Carr would probably be up there with them. Like I would take those two guys above. I would take him over Julian Sand. I would take him over Dante Moore. Like those two guys were the ones that impressed me the most last year as a quarterback that are coming back. Like they just do. So I'm not arguing that Texas should be number 4, but I don't understand how you can sit here and be like Indiana's the defending national champion, and I know they lost some guys, but they're bringing the Andrew Marsh kid. I think that was his first name, the Marsh kid from Michigan State, receiver, best receiver there. They are bringing an established quarterback. I understand he had turnover issues a little bit, but they're bringing guys back, and they got recruits, and they got that stuff. Like, how can you sit there and literally look at that and be like, you know what, though, you won the national championship last year, but you dropped that far down behind Georgia, Texas, and Notre Dame. I don't get it to start with. Now, after 1 week, after you see some games played, maybe you're like, you know what?
Correct.
Yeah, Indiana isn't as good. But you're telling me that every year that now Bama was a little bit different because when Nick Saban had them rolling, they were ridiculous year after year after year. But they proved it year after year after year. Georgia's done it for a couple years, but they weren't great last year. Like, you know, I mean, in the SEC was definitely lacking. Now, their number 1 and number 2 teams are Ohio State and Oregon. And I understand it. Ohio State just reloads. I get it. But, you know, Oregon, they were good, but Indiana trounced them. And Oregon's quarterback last year was Dante Moore. This year, it's also Dante Moore, and Indiana destroyed them. I mean, it was close in Oregon, but when they played in the playoff, it was all Indiana. I just don't see how you can put them that far down. And obviously, some coaches thought they were good because they had the second most first place votes.
Yeah, I mean, you look, regardless of, I know it's a new season and everything, and you kind of got to maybe not forget what happened last year, but you can't base it solely off what happened last year. But you're a human being. You're going to go Kirk Cignetti, Indiana, they have an established quarterback, and I think Cignetti and his system will help that a lot because Fernando Mendoza didn't put up crazy amount of stats. Like he wasn't throwing for 5,000 yards, nothing like that, but he didn't turn the ball over and he made plays when he had to because of that system. He's got an offensive line. They got running backs. They do things differently. I think people will adjust to the way Kirk Cignetti's coaching, and I think it's going to get tougher for him because we've seen coaches have success in their first and second seasons. And I'm going to talk about Bob Stoops, one of my favorite coaches of all times. Came into Oklahoma in 99, won the national championship 2000, sniffed it a couple other times throughout his career, but never got there again. So they start figuring out how the coaches coach and things like that, and they can adapt to it. So I think Indiana, Kirk Cignetти, they're going to be solid, but winning another national title is just so hard to do. And, of course, like you said, Ohio State reloads. Oregon's the team, and Texas so far are the 2 teams that just every year they show up with these talented rosters. The expectations are high, and they just don't get it done. I don't trust Oregon. I don't trust Texas. And Notre Dame is iffy for me right now. I like their coach a lot. I think their schedule is really, really beneficial for them this year. But the team that bothers me the most is probably Texas A&M. Their schedule was so easy. When they finally played a decent team twice, they got beat by Texas. And then again, Ole Miss down at 10 bothers me too because I think Ole Miss is better than A&M. But anyway, yeah, Indiana not getting a lot of love. We'll see where they're at in the AP poll.
All right, and I do want to repeat. I think Ohio State, Oregon. I mean, I'm not great on Georgia. I know you don't trust Texas. I'm high on them this year. I get it. I think Notre Dame is pretty good, but their schedule is ridiculously soft. If Notre Dame can't make the playoff this year, then there's something wrong. Like they've really screwed it up. Yep. I think all those teams are good. And coming into the season, like we could pick them apart a little bit, and we could get nitpicky about things. And they're good, but like. Then what's wrong with Indiana? Why is Indiana behind those teams? Like, I don't see it. If you wanted to be like, well, you know what, Ohio State might have been better than Indiana last year, maybe, okay. But Indiana lost to Miami. Ohio State lost to Miami. Indiana beat Miami. They played and I know Ohio State missed some field goals, but they still missed field goals. They lost the game. Indiana beat them on the field. Indiana beat them on the field. So, and I know that they're bringing back Julian Sand, but Ohio State did lose a bunch. I know they have, some receivers, Jeremiah Smith coming back and stuff like that, but like they've lost players.
Oh, yeah, they lost a ton of guys.
Yeah, so I mean, and they do. And don't get me wrong, I hate it. I hate it with a fiery passion. They find a way to be good almost every year. I get it. But Indiana's done it. Like, there's just no way that Georgia or Alabama would have won a national championship last year and not be ranked in the top two, the next year. Just They wouldn't have happened.
No,
and you're right. Who would have thought I would be fighting for Indiana so much? Holy cow.
You are from there, but you're not a huge fan of Indiana. But Texas Tech at 12 surprises me a little bit. Apparently, Brendan Sorsby is not the only guy they have there. Bama at 11 surprises me a little bit. Simpson's gone, like they haven't replaced a quarterback. I think Ole Miss should be higher. And then, of course, I think Indiana should be higher. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of complaints. I mean, I would maybe move Miami ahead of Notre Dame and Indiana ahead of Notre Dame and just kind of leave it like that.
I'm going to tell you why Texas Tech not only is ranked that high, but why they're going to stay that high. This is Texas Tech's schedule, and you tell me where a loss is, okay?
All right.
Seriously, they start the season at home against Abilene Christian, okay? We can't fault them because teams are playing FCS. That's fine. They go to Oregon State. Oh, man, God, don't challenge yourself too much. Oregon State's been awful the last couple of years. They're home against Houston. Houston's been like Jekyll and Hyde.
Houston is ranked.
Okay. Then they're home against Sam Houston. Okay, Sam Houston I think was 2-12 last year or something like that. 2-11. I guess you can't be 2-12. They go to Colorado. Is anybody scared of Colorado right now? Nope. They're home against Arizona State. Okay, Arizona State is a little bit of a challenge, but I'm still not really worried about them. They go to Cincinnati. Well, guess what? Brendan Sorsby's gone. Cincinnati sucks. They're home against Arizona. Now, Arizona lost that quarterback. That quarterback was there. They played better. I'm not really worried about that. Home against West Virginia. Worried about that one? Not really. Nope. Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State. Well, Oklahoma State won one game last year. Not really worried about that. At Baylor, they were like 500 last year and home against TCU. TCU was down. That's their schedule. You tell me where their loss is. They don't play BYU. I mean, it's just It's not hard. That's not hard schedule. Texas Tech, if you can't make the playoffs this year, you suck.
They don't play Kansas or Kansas State, who can be troublesome. Houston is their toughest game, and that's week 3. If they get past that, I honestly, unless Colorado comes out of the trenches or Oklahoma State without Mike Gundy all of a sudden shows up, other than that, you're right. I don't care who their quarterback is. I think they got enough guys that can run. They can run the table. They're going to win the Big 12. They're going to go to the Big 12 title game and play BYU again. So that'll be.
Yeah, you pick BYU, and maybe BYU beats them, and we could discuss that, later. But
one loss, Texas Tech should get in still.
If Texas Tech is not 11-1 after that schedule, then they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Like, they don't. Like that. That's kind of what hurt Notre Dame. Notre Dame didn't have any big wins.
Right.
They lost to Miami. They lost to Texas Tech. Their top win last year, I think, was USC. And while USC wasn't a bad team, it wasn't one of those that you're like, you know what? That's a monster win. We got to put them in the playoffs.
Right.
So Texas Tech, Charmin soft schedule. Like, that's weak. As tough as the Arizona Cardinal schedule is, the Texas Tech schedule is the complete opposite of that. I'm choking myself up after that one.
You got fired up about that.
Yeah. Here's the ones that befuddle me. I'm gonna befuddle. There we go. That's my word for the day. LSU at 13. Lane Kiffin's gonna make that much of a difference.
And a quarterback from Arizona State. That helps. He's got some guys out there. But I think his schedule's hard enough to
well, it's definitely one of the hardest ones because he's playing the SEC, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So now you're getting it. I mean, they do start out the year with Clemson, who's ranked.
Okay.
They have Ole Miss, who's ranked. They have A&M, who's ranked. I mean, they have Alabama, who's ranked. They have Texas. They have Tennessee. So their schedule's not cakewalk. But I think they're going to be better than people think. But I think 13 is a little high. I wouldn't have put them ahead of BYU.
For right now. Now, if they start winning those games and they beat those teams, move them up. 100%. But, if they beat Clemson early and then Clemson goes into tailspin and they end up whatever, they're going to be like, well, that's a ranked win. Well, guess what? So was Florida State last year. And the year before that, remember when Georgia Tech, I think it was Georgia Tech, beat Florida State week 1, right? And they're like, that's a ranked win. Well, Florida State ended up 2-11 that year or something like that, right? Well, that was a ranked win. No, it wasn't. I mean, yes, it was, but no, it wasn't.
That's a problem. That's something we need to dwell on more. Is it counting ranked wins when the team is not even currently ranked is a problem? Because what is the team ranked right now? Are they still ranked? Okay, then that's a ranked win. If they're not ranked, that's not a ranked win because that team is not as good as they people thought they would be. That's the problem with these polls coming out too soon. I think you and I can agree we should wait a few weeks, maybe
100%.
3 or 4 weeks. Let's see a few games first, get the eye test out there, and then we can kind of really get an idea of who's going to be what. Because like you said, Florida State gets beat a couple years ago, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, Georgia Tech's amazing. No, Florida State is awful.
And I mean, and that's the thing. Like, if you want to say you beat a team, so let's say, I know Michigan isn't playing, but Michigan plays Missouri first week of the season. Let's just say they do, right? Missouri's ranked 25th.
Ranked 25th.
Michigan beats them. Missouri drops out. All right, let's say Missouri kind of hovers around in the others receiving votes, and they're right on the edge. And you want to be like, you know what? That's a ranked win. I could get behind that because you're the team that knocked them out, and then they stayed right in there, right?
Okay.
I can get that because sometimes you beat a team and you knock them out, and then they just kind of on that cusp. Okay, but when you beat a team that's ranked in the preseason poll, that's the other thing too. I think then at the time they're like, oh, Georgia Tech has a top 10 win because Florida State was ranked in the top 10 because the year before that they went undefeated, right? Yeah, it's a top 10 win. But now they're 2-11. That's not a top 10 win. That's even worse. If you want to go there, like if you want to say it was a ranked win at the time, I can it's still weak argument, but I can kind of get behind that. But
yeah,
I just don't know. And that you're right. That's the thing with these polls early. But yeah, LSU number 13. That's a little bit weird. Penn State, man, they're giving some love to them. They got them up at 17. SMU's at 20. I don't know about that. Utah, listen, they weren't awesome last year, and they lost their coach. I mean, I know Whittingham stepped down, and then he went to Michigan, but 21. And listen, Clemson, I'm not saying they're not going to be good. I'm not saying they couldn't be ranked, but that Clemson being ranked 23rd, which I know is whatever, you're probably just throwing darts at a dartboard at that point. That's a history pick right there. That's not we're for sure they're a top 25 team.
Yeah, that's a Dabo seems to be maybe getting it together. Maybe the last couple of years were a fluke. They're gonna be back because if you look at other teams that received votes, I mean, I'm trying to figure out if Illinois being out would kind of surprise me a little bit because I thought they played really well last year. Obviously, Vanderbilt is close, but they lost Pavia. They should be out. South Carolina's hovering around there, but I don't know who else to put in there. I think that Clemson is, as you're right, just kind of historical. Dabo. We're going to find out week 1 really where Clemson and LSU are, and I don't see any other crazy. Penn State right now, to me, I look at that Penn State team and I go, where would Iowa State be ranked? 17th, maybe. So that's kind of how I look at that. But is there anybody on here that is? I mean, we already talked about Indiana being too low. And maybe should be. Is there somebody on here that's just way, way too high? You think LSU maybe is too high?
LSU for me is way too high. Like it's.
You would rank them.
I would rank them. I think they top 25 team. They were still talented enough last year, but I mean they finished 500, and Nussmeier's gone. Like they lost their quarterback, and I'll be honest, I haven't looked through their whole roster. I'm not sure who the quarterback is.
They got Sam Levitt.
Oh, that's right, and he was good, but he got hurt a little bit too, and he also did that stuff at Arizona State. So let's.
Right.
As much as we want to be like, it was still in the Big 12, and he did a good job, and 2 years ago he did a good job. Last year, I think he got hurt a little bit and he struggled a little bit. Arizona State wasn't as good. But really, outside of last year with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's always got a team kind of there and never got over that hump, right?
Right.
And even then, he didn't coach them in the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying if they would have been any different if you'd have coached them in the playoffs.
I don't think it would matter.
I don't think it would have mattered, but we don't know, So I don't trust Lane Kiffin. Like, obviously, that offense is going to be good, but let's be honest, Lane Kiffin doesn't really coach defense. Like, that defense is – nobody confuses Lane Kiffin's teams for a defensive juggernaut. Like, whatever the opposite of the Baltimore Ravens were when Ray Lewis and stuff was there, that is Lane Kiffin. It's the opposite. Like, they don't play defense. Really good offense. They're going to win shootouts. I just don't have that. But the other one that I see, and this isn't just me, and this is looking at the other receiving votes, how the heck is Florida only this,
they're close,
quote-unquote, 27th?
They're close, yeah. Some people think there's something going on down there in Florida. Apparently, I don't know. We're going to have to find out quickly because Oklahoma comes to Gainesville. But I think A&M's too high for me right now.
Okay, I would agree too.
Based on how they finished, and this goes back to the Indiana argument, based on how A&M finished and the weak schedule that they had, and then when they finally played somebody, they just couldn't do anything. They got beat by Texas, and Miami absolutely just shut them down. So that goes back to Indiana, I think, is too low, and A&M should be down probably in that 12-13 range. And
All
then
right, so listen, this is A&M schedule. They have Missouri State and Arizona State and Kentucky is what they open up with. So 3 games. They probably should win those. They do go to LSU. That's a little bit tougher. Home against Arkansas, at Missouri versus the Citadel. Yeah. Listen, that is a first 7 games that, yes, at LSU, a little bit at Missouri, maybe. That's not that tough of a schedule. Again, like now their second part of their schedule, which I know the Citadel is technically in the second half, but their second part is at Alabama, at South Carolina, but there's a bye in between there, versus Tennessee, at Oklahoma, versus Texas. Now that is much tougher. Yeah. That is a tough 5-game stretch there. But that first 7, and here's the thing too, we know this. You get rolling, they could be 7-0. There's not and not be great. Good. Don't get me wrong. You can't be 7-0 and be horrible, right?
They could end up 7-5. They could lose those last 5 games, or 8-4. They could lose Bama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas. They could lose 4 out of those 5, maybe all 5. So that would be
that at South Carolina is not an easy game. I'm not going to say it's but it's not like difficult. But at least they're playing like. We'll be honest. Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas, and probably Tennessee should finish in the top half of the the SEC this year. Yep. And maybe LSU, maybe Missouri. Oh, Texas A&M. We said this did not play, or they lost the one game they did. Yeah. Anybody above the halfway point in the SEC.
Yeah.
All their wins came in the bottom half of the SEC. And as much as you want to say the SEC is stacked, that bottom half got thin.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just going to be, I'm just going to be, again, the first 3 or 4 weeks is like, we still don't know. Maybe with A&M, we might need 6 or 7 weeks before we actually start to know. But with Michigan and Oklahoma, we're going to know within the first few weeks where our teams stand. And it's going to be a hard game that second week. And then Oklahoma's then Oklahoma's got Georgia week 4. So, and then they got they're off, and then they have Texas. So I'm going to find out real quick within the first month where my Sooners are, and same with Michigan. I mean, if they go in and Oklahoma comes in, depending on what's going there, then you have Iowa sprinkled in there, and you got Penn State down the road a little bit. Like you have some games there that you're going to judge your team off of. So, man. A&M bothers me up there. I will let LSU slide if they would move A&M down because
I mean, you're right. You look at like Michigan's schedule and their first 3 weeks they do have Western Michigan and ETIP. I get that, but that's 2 of the 3 non-conference games. Nobody's going to fault them. The other one is Oklahoma, and then they start their Big Ten. Their Big Ten. They start their Big Ten with home against Iowa, at Minnesota, which I get it, and then home against Penn State, home against IU. So like that's Michigan's first 8 games, 7 games,
right.
Texas A&M. Texas A&M can sit at 7-0. Michigan can sit at 5-2, 4-3 maybe, and be better. Yeah. They really could.
That's exactly what I was looking at. I was looking at other teams' schedules right now. A&M could be 6-1 and 7-0 and be ranked in the top 10. Meanwhile, our teams might have 2 losses, but our losses could be to really highly ranked teams, and A&M just played trash the whole way. But A&M is going to be ranked in the top 10, and we're going to be sitting down at 17, 18, 20, somewhere in there. That's crazy.
Right, exactly.
But then A&M loses the last 5. That changes things a little bit. But
it would definitely change things. But and this is where I'm at too. Like, I love the fact that Michigan's playing Oklahoma this year. They played them last year. They played Texas the year before. They're going to play Texas next year. I love that they're playing those games. I want more of those games. I want them to find a way for those games not to hurt teams as much. You have to start encouraging those games because we said it last year. And again, and we've said this numerous times, Michigan was not a playoff team. I'm not trying to state the case, but Michigan lost 3 games last year in the regular season. They lost to Oklahoma, USC, and Ohio State. They were 9-3 in the regular season. I think that's what they were, 9-3.
2 of those teams went to playoffs.
Yeah, so. and they missed the playoffs. Let me make sure. I want to make sure that I'm not saying this wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And they missed the playoffs, and they should have missed the playoffs. I'm not trying. Again, they were not a playoff team. I'm not trying to even do this. Yeah, three games in the regular season, and one of them was Ohio State. The other one's USC and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, Ohio State made the playoffs. USC was borderline. If Michigan doesn't play Oklahoma, they would have been 10-2, and they might have made the playoff. They might have. And again, not trying to say they weren't a playoff team. They weren't playing like a playoff team. They weren't, anything like that. But like but that loss, I think, set them back. There's got to be a way where you're like, we're not going to completely discount it, because we can't like say, well, you didn't lose that game,
Right.
but you got to sit back and you're like, okay, if Michigan is 9-3 and their loss was to Oklahoma, and you have a 10-2 team, let's just say Indiana, because their non-conference schedule sucks, and you're like, okay,
yeah, their non-conference off.
They played 3 nobodies. Michigan played 1 team, and they didn't play on the field. Like, you got to be like, you know what? I think Michigan should get in over Indiana, even though they're 9-3 and Indiana is 10-2, right? I mean, there's got to be something like that, because if they don't do something like that, or they're going to stop scheduling those games. Indiana's literally done that. They stopped scheduling those games because of that, right?
Yeah, I think they came out and said, why would we schedule those games? And then now that takes away from the regular season a little bit. But you're right. If they don't give some sort of weight one way or another to those out of conference big Power 4 matchups, nobody's going to schedule. They're all going to play Howard, and they're all going to play, UTEP and whoever else, which, I mean, okay, it's football, but like, how good are you and how do we judge? But if they're expanding the playoff, 3 losses you can get in. For the most part.
Right. They expanded to 24. It makes things a little bit different. But we'll be honest. Like, don't get me wrong. That first week, Michigan plays Western Michigan. I'm gonna get dressed up in my Michigan stuff. I'm gonna do all the things I do because I love watching Michigan football. I love it. But there's still a little bit missing now. That Oklahoma game too. I mean, like I said, hopefully maybe we're sitting in the big house. But either way, like, you're more pumped up for those games. And you're like, you know what? I'm more excited for these games, even the conference games, even, Michigan playing in Northwestern or something. You're like, you know what? I'm still pumped up for this game because this is a conference game.
Right.
You don't get as pumped up about those games. These games, and I love the fact that Michigan, Oklahoma, Michigan, Texas doing it with Ohio State, are playing on the home campuses. Like, it's awesome. Like, I hate that Michigan lost at Oklahoma, but how cool was it last year, night game, Michigan at Oklahoma? It was awesome. Like, it's just there's nothing wrong with that for college football, right?
Absolutely not. The problem is the teams that lose, like you said, if Oklahoma or if Michigan would have played, Marshall or whoever and got a win, they might be sitting in the playoffs instead of Alabama or somebody. But that game was fun. That game was fun for the fans. And it was, I'm sure the players love it as well. But as a football program, if they expand the playoffs, it will help that a little bit. But you're right. They have to do something. Otherwise, teams are going to there's nothing encouraging them to schedule those hard non-conference first Power 4 games. So Clemson and LSU are playing, Ohio State and Texas, like you said, but those are the games that we need to keep seeing come up, because you want to make the playoffs. I get it. But you also want to challenge your teams throughout the year. Like, you're just playing scrubs teams that are cupcakes like Texas A&M, and you saw what happened. They made the playoff, but it was kind of not awesome. Like, they look bad.
They're never going to do this, but it would be great if they're like, you know what? And I know they can't do this because it shuts off the lower teams, and I get that a little bit. But if you sit there and you're like, you know what, the Power 4 conferences, or at least the Big Ten, the SEC or something, they'll never do this. If you be like, you know what, you need to play 10 Power 5 games.
Sounds like we lost Adam. Lost you, buddy.
All right. I think I got. All right. We had a little technical difficulties, but we're back. Gotta love technology, right? The Wi-Fi is great until it's not, right?
That's correct. Microphones, headphones, Wi-Fi, computers. We got a lot going on here.
I mean, listen, we've done this for, I don't know, six. I don't want to say 6, 7. Jesus. Yeah.
Probably
6 years or so. Yeah, I think we did it a little before COVID, so it's been going on, and it's only happened to us a couple times. So I guess we'd be blessed that
correct.
We've only had it cut out. So anyways, let's get back to it. I was in the middle of it. We were talking about the schedules, and we we're talking about how playing these big games. They need to find a way to secure we can have these big games, because, I mean, even as a player, and you've coached too. Like, we've even coached together. And while it's nice to get wins, and we love getting these wins, when you're playing a team that you should just beat, yes, you can get up for it to begin with, and it's a struggle to keep your players into the game, and that's the one thing.
Exactly.
And I don't blame them, because as a coach, sometimes you're like, oh, okay, all right, we're going to coach hard for, like, we coach baseball. We never coach football. We're going to go hard for 2 innings. And then all of a sudden you're up 10 runs, and you're like, okay, You guys just go up there and hit. We're just going to take one base at a time.
Right.
You know, if you get a double, you get a double. Don't try not to get a hit, you know, but do these things. So it's on the same with the football. Like, you know, especially when the SEC plays like the Citadel and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch.
You get a win, but is it really that much fun? And you're in a no-win situation because you better beat that team by 50. And if they're close at all in the second half, you start to get a little nervous. So,
and I mean,
go ahead.
I understand the first few couple of games, 2 or 3 games. You want to get because things in practice look good and it runs smooth and everything feels good. But then when you get out there with the thousands and thousands of fans and you're on the field with another team that wants to beat you and they hit you and everything is live and it's faster, things happen. So you want a couple of games, and I understand that. If you're Oklahoma, you're Michigan, you're Georgia, Bama, whoever, you want a couple games where you can go out there and you can make mistakes and still come out with the victory. But we're talking about 10 weeks in and you're playing the Citadel and you are a seasoned football team. It hasn't really been an issue. So maybe I'm just talking out my, you know what, but what if you're out there playing the Citadel and you're Bama and you're undefeated right before you go play Auburn or right before you go play LSU or one of those big games and one of your players gets hurt?
Yeah.
Playing the Citadel, for crying out loud, and you got hurt. If you're going to play, now the other side of that is they only have to play a half, so it saves them a little bit. That's the other side of that. It doesn't happen that much, but man, I think I would be upset if Oklahoma played some no-name team right before Texas, and somebody gets hurt and just we're up by 30 and they're still out there with the starters in. I mean, I don't know. Two sides to that.
And I get it. Like the college football doesn't have the preseason like the NFL does. And I know sometimes the NFL doesn't play their starters and stuff like that. I would argue that they should play their starters more because, we've seen what happens when they don't. Like the game's not as good in the first couple of weeks or whatever. I have zero problem with the Michigans, the Oklahomas, the Bamas, any SEC teams playing some of those teams. One, it gives those lesser teams money. Like, this year Michigan's playing Western Michigan and UTEP. They pay them to come play. That helps those teams, survive. I don't have a problem with that. And you're right. You get a couple of those games in, it's nice. I'm just saying, as a fan perspective, it's not as nice, but I get it. I'm not arguing with that fact, and you should pretty much schedule 2 non-conference wins. I don't have a problem with that. But the third one is where I'm like, let's have a game. You know what I'm saying? Let's have a game where it matters. And what I was saying before, we got cut off and technology, ruined us for a minute. And they'll never do this. They'll never do this because it almost, I want to say it makes too much sense, but it doesn't make too much sense. It's just they don't want to do it because they're afraid it's going to lessen, especially the SEC right now, because they're in, we need to catch up with the Big Ten again. They need to look good, right? And we finally went to 9 conference games, which that was begrudgingly happened. These Power 4 conferences, and I know it'll take some money out of the little man's pockets, but if you do this, I wish they would be like, you know what? You need to play 10 games against a Power 4 team, right? Okay. So you have your 9 conference games and you have to play another one. Even if you went, let's say the SEC went out and they played a Purdue or Northwestern, and I'm not trying to pick on those schools, the lower level teams, but they can't all do that, right? Or if the Big Ten, we're going to go play Mississippi State or Vanderbilt when Pavia wasn't there, or teams like that.
Right.
It's still different. That's still a team that is still recruiting like you, right? They're still in your conference. Hell, even if you went to the Big Ten, the ACC, in the ACC, you're like, we're going to go play SMU. Well, SMU's better right now, but I'm trying to think, who's not as good. Virginia Tech, the last couple of years before Franklin got there, it's still one of those games, and I'm telling you what, those fans are going to get up for that game, whether it is a Northwestern or a Duke or any of those teams. If you would force them to do that and play that 10th game, it makes a huge difference. And now everybody is somewhat at least on a level playing field, right? Because then you're like, what? We played 10 Power 5, Power 4 schools. Now, we might get lucky in our conference schedules a little bit easier, which they need to find a way to make those a little bit more balanced. Like Michigan should not have to play Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon all in the same year. Like that should be split up a little bit more, but
Correct.
it is what it is. I'm not arguing, like it is what it is, because Michigan's schedule was easy last year. But you tell me you can't do that. You 100% could do that, right?
Yeah, and I think,
but it makes too much sense.
well, and let's do one of two things. Let's do that, and instead of Citadel before LSU or Auburn for Bama, plug in a Northwestern, plug in a Purdue. I would much rather watch that football game than Bama versus, UMass or whoever that they play, Charlotte or whoever. Put in a Purdue or put in a Northwestern, Samford, yeah. Or move. Do not let the SEC, and I don't know if you can do that, let the SEC schedule basically an FBS school play that late in the season. Like you're 10 weeks in and you're playing Samford. Like that's awful. That we've talked about that a million times. I don't know if you can force them to move it, but you can maybe force them to play a Big 10 school, Big 12, somebody like that. Have Colorado go to Bama. Have Bama go to Colorado in freaking week 10, week 11, when it's colder and it's cold out there. And maybe that game would be entertaining. I still think Bama would take care of business because they just have better dudes out there, but it would be entertaining. Snow on the ground, SEC school playing in the snow. It would be fun. It would create a lot of entertainment. Now, I think you brought up a good point, and I want to talk about it for just 1 second, but those smaller schools do enjoy that money that they get paid, the couple of million, 3 million, whatever it is, because that does help their programs, not only their football programs, but other programs as well. So I do think that's important. I think we can still keep that early in the season. But man, wouldn't you like to see Georgia go up north somewhere? And it's Rutgers. Go up to New Jersey and play Rutgers week 10, week 11, something like that.
100%.
That would be fun.
I would. It absolutely love those, and that's why I was a big proponent when they expanded the playoff is having home games, and I still think those teams that get a bye should get a home game. Like Indiana should get a home game last 100%. Year, and all that. But that's an argument again for another story. Like, listen, they're not going to do that 10 thing, but then at least you can be like, okay, you know what? At least everybody's in a 10th game. One non-conference game against a Power 4 school. And you're at least a little bit more, and you keep these games, and they don't hurt you as much because everybody's doing it. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like you're on a somewhat level playing field. I understand, if Michigan were to schedule Oklahoma, but then Bama schedules Purdue. I understand that, but you get these matchups you've never seen before. I'm going to go on a limb and say Purdue's never played Alabama. I don't know that for a fact, but probably why would they?
Definitely not up north.
Yeah, we're definitely not doing that. But I will go to you. Like, we can get a happy medium here because last time I checked, and I'm still waiting for the call, the SEC, Big Ten, NCAA have not called me for any of my ideas. I think they're great in my own mind, at least. I mean, the two bald guys have some good ideas.
That's right.
But you're right. If you want to schedule those pansies, the weak schools, they're not. They're teams in their own right. But compared to Bama, whoever, stop scheduling them in the 11th week, in the 12th week. Now, if you have Notre Dame on your schedule and you have them in the 11th to 12th week because of Notre Dame being independent, fine with it. Georgia plays Georgia Tech the last week, fine with it. South Carolina plays Clemson last week, fine with it. Because those are Power 4 schools. And we've talked about this before. Michigan, you think Michigan would rather play, health-wise, would rather play a Western Michigan the week before Ohio State than playing even a UCLA? I think this year it's UCLA. Yeah. UCLA is not a great team, but it's still a competent team. Western Michigan, but let's just be honest, they're not on the same level. I would rather play Western Michigan before Ohio State because you could play a half, you could work into stuff, and you could be healthy. Not playing a full game the week before your biggest game of the year. But hell, let's just Alabama bye before LSU, and then they play Chattanooga before whoever it is before Auburn.
Yep. Yeah. No. Absolutely. I think we have dwelt on this, and it's funny we keep bringing up Bama because Bama seems to be the biggest culprit of this. And I think we can look at LSU, and they have some situations like that. And there's several teams in the SEC that schedule around their big opponents to whether have a bye week or somewhat of a bye week with Chattanooga or Charlotte or whoever. But if that was a change to a game, and I think you and I would both agree, send an SEC school up north 10 weeks into the college football season, and let's get that argument of play in the cold weather. Send them to Iowa. I mean, I know Iowa's ranked, but sometimes they're 7-5. But go play Iowa at night. Go see. Let's see those SEC teams do what the Big Ten teams have been doing forever, and let's just kind of see where that compares to. And I'd say the same thing for the Indianas of the world. Now, come down, play Georgia. Come down, go play Texas. But don't think we're going to see it. I think it's going to go the wrong way before it goes to the way we want it to see. I think we'll start seeing less Power 4 schools play each other, and then I think they'll figure it out, and they'll try to correct it a little bit by either expanding the playoffs or, I mean, I don't know what else you would do to correct that. I don't think you can force people to do certain things with their schedule.
Yeah,
maybe they can. Maybe they can. I don't know.
That's the problem. I think the Big Ten maybe have put in a thing about no more FCS schools. I thought I heard that. Maybe they did, maybe they don't. But I would gladly, and how cool would it be then too if they did play in October, November? I would gladly see Michigan go to an Ole Miss one year if Ole Miss came up to Michigan in November, or Alabama, or like LSU.
Yeah.
Oh my God, any of those teams playing in the cold weather for one game. Again, never going to happen, but amazing. That'd be amazing. Let's see how good your SEC team is in the snow or just flat out cold weather. Right. Let's just see. Let's just see how you do. Now, you do get up to Kentucky, sometimes Tennessee, and it is a little bit colder. Maybe Missouri,
chilly.
Yeah, you could get a little bit, but like for the most part, you're not playing. Michigan, any team going to Minnesota or Wisconsin in November, even Canada. Penn State up in Pennsylvania. You're right. You're almost in Canada for some of those schools. It's cold.
Yeah,
we don't see SEC teams playing in the cold, and that's another story.
But
we could go on that for a while. But
you have been listening to the Two Bald Guys Sports Podcast with Adam and Tony. Don't forget to check out our partnership with Happy Nuts.